Barney was the new farmer on the farm. He had just moved in and already completed his first task, fixing a broken fence near the pasture. He was proud and ready for more.
Good job.
The next morning, Barney climbed onto his tractor and set off to check the farm, to see if another fence might need fixing. As he drove across the meadow, something caught his eye. Lying in the grass was a large white egg. It wasn't in a nest, and there were no signs of any animals nearby. Barney stepped closer and looked carefully. The egg moved slightly.
What are you doing here?
He murmured to himself. Barney didn't want to leave the egg all alone out in the open.
What if it got cold? Or if something stepped on it by accident?
He knew he had to act. He carefully drove back to the barn and grabbed a few big bundles of soft, dry hay. On his trailer, he made a cozy nest, warm, safe, and cushioned from every side. When everything was ready, Barney gently picked up the egg and placed it exactly in the center of the hay. Then he drove it to a warm shed where it would be safe from the wind and cold. All day long, Barney kept checking on it. Nothing happened at first, until suddenly crack. A small line appeared, then another, and finally, the egg split open. It was a chick, but not just any chick. It was an ostrich chick, with big curious eyes and soft gray fluff. It blinked at Barney, and let out a gentle squeak. Barney was surprised but also relieved. Now it made sense. The egg must have come from the ostrich farm nearby, just across the hill. One of their birds probably laid the egg a bit too far from home, and no one noticed it was missing. The little ostrich looked healthy and full of energy. It stood up on wobbly legs, and immediately started following Barney around like he was its new best friend.
Well, I guess you found the right farm after all, little one. Let's get you back where you belong.
After a while they reached the neighboring farm. The chick ran happily toward its family, reuniting with the other ostriches. Barney watched with a warm smile, proud that he could help.
cold winter morning had arrived on the farm. The first snowflakes began to fall from the sky. The chickens, who had enjoyed the warmth of the old henhouse all autumn, now had to face the approaching winter. Seeing the chickens starting to seek shelter from the frost, the farmer knew it was time to build a new henhouse. The henhouse that had been on the farm for years was already in poor condition. The walls were leaky, and winter winds could blow snow inside. For the chickens, who needed warmth and protection from the winter, the old shelter was no longer enough. The farmer decided to take action. He took his green tractor, hitched a trailer with skids, and headed to the forest to collect wood for the construction. And so, step by step, the new henhouse began to be built. The first step was to put up solid legs that would support the entire weight of the structure. When the legs were ready, it was time to make the floor. The next step was to mount two side walls and a front with an exit. Then it was time for the roof, which would protect the henhouse from rain and snow. Finally, it was time to add a platform, a place where the hens could rest and enter the henhouse.